Hello everyone, I'm Rashmeet Kaur, nutritionist and lifestyle expert at Team Loop. And today on World IVF Day, I would be speaking more about IVF, certain things to be kept in mind before going for IVF, and measures that can be taken before your embryo transfer to improve the chances of a positive IVF outcome. 44 years ago, the world was introduced to its first ever test tube baby, Louis Brown, in England. And since then, more than 8 million babies are born through IVF and various other artificial reproductive techniques. IVF or in vitro fertilization is a technique that involves removing the eggs from a woman's ovaries and mixing it with sperms outside the body, typically in a petri dish in a lab environment. Fertilization is the process that leads to the formation of embryos, and these embryos are then transferred into the woman's uterus where they develop into a fetus and eventually into a baby. Now, if you're planning to go for IVF, or if you know of someone who has been through this or planning to go for this journey, you may understand how difficult, how long the journey may get at times. The process is surely very tedious and draining in terms of physical health, mentally, and even economically for the couple. So, it gets very important to understand various factors that can actually improve the chances of a positive outcome and things that need to be taken care of well in advance before going for this process. Now, two things that really can be monitored before going for an IVF is your egg quality and the sperm quality. Now, the conventional thinking is that women are born with a number of eggs that they would have for their lifetime, and that the quality of these eggs keeps on declining with age, which is partially true, but is not the whole story. Most of our lives, the eggs are in a suspended state. But in those 3 to 4 months before ovulation, the eggs undergo a major transformation. There are drastic changes that happens in the egg. They start producing more energy. There are changes happening at the genetic, the chromosomal level. And these changes actually determine the quality of the eggs that may be used for your IVF cycle. The same applies for the sperm. The sperm quality equally matters, especially in the IVF context where female partners' eggs are poor quality eggs or the number of eggs that are retrieved are low. The female partner cannot afford to waste any of her eggs for a suboptimal quality sperm. Thus, working on the quality of your sperm, of your egg before going for the IVF cycle is very important. Certain things that can be taken care are your overall diet, your lifestyle, your physical activity, sleep routine, your exposure to various environmental toxins commonly found around us, your phthalates, your BPA, they all are endocrine disruptors. So all of these simple things need to be kept in mind well in advance before going for the IVF cycles to miss any loopholes before going for this process. If you're trying to conceive through IVF, what else can be done to improve the odds of the embryo actually implanting in the uterus and leading to a positive pregnancy? Now, the two main factors that dictate the implantation of the embryo after the egg retrieval are firstly, the quality of the embryo, and second, the thickness of the uterine lining. So, like we discussed, after working for several months on the sperm quality, on the egg quality, you may by now have worked on improving the quality of the embryo. But now is the time when you have to start working and prepping the uterine lining for a successful implantation. In recent years, a trend has been observed by various fertility clinics, hospitals, and various specialists and doctors that they prefer freezing the embryos after the retrieval, and they do not transfer the embryo in the same week as the retrieval. Instead, they go for a frozen embryo transfer. Now, it has been backed by research that the uterine lining is not well prepared and thickened to the adequate levels in the same week and is less receptive for implantation. And thus, the doctors prefer waiting and freezing the embryos for at least a month and then go for a transfer. Of course, in certain cases where the doctors feel the need, the urgency to do it in the same week, they do go ahead with it. But in that 1 month period, if the doctor has gone for freezing the embryos, we can always work on improving the thickness of the endometrial lining to increase the chances of the implantation happening successfully and leading to a pregnancy. In a 2016 study of frozen embryo transfer, It was seen that the live birth rates with women of the uterine lining more than 9 mm or equal to 9 mm was around 32%, whereas the birth rate in women with lining less than 8 mm was just around 24%. Thus, it gets very important to start considering foods or supplements under your doctor's recommendation to work on this lining. As a starting point, you can consider working on your vitamin D levels that are very commonly ignored. Vitamin D is very important for a healthy pregnancy and is known to reduce the chances of preterm births and miscarriages. Other supplements that can be considered with your doctor's supervision are your vitamin E and L-arginine. Vitamin E is known to boost the number of the cells in the uterine area and thus it helps in improving the thickness. L-arginine works in a similar way. It helps in dilating the blood vessels, increasing the blood flow, and thus encouraging the thickening and growth of the uterine lining. You may also check with your doctor about various prenatal supplements that need to be regularly taken for working on these factors. In addition to these supplements, you can always consider homeopathy as a reliable treatment under a good supervision. And also, acupuncture has had good results in improving and prepping the uterine lining and increasing its sensitivity for a successful implantation. I hope this session was helpful in understanding certain small things that are really essential for a positive IVF outcome that were actually being ignored. So, moving forward, these things can be taken care of, and I hope I could create some amount of awareness for working on these things in the future. Thank you so much.